welcome everyone to the Great Top Show. I am Looney. That's Aslam. Hi, Aslam.
Hi, Looney, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm trying to get a tune like yours, but
No, you can't. No, you can never.
I'm not so good.
No, how are you?
I'm great. I had a great holiday. I'm back in action.
Yes. What are we doing for the Great Top today?
Today we are doing the eye, the
Yes.
human eye.
Yes.
And we have some guests with us today.
No.
You tell them about them.
Yes, thanks. Guys, you know they always try to steal my shine and try to introduce people.
No.
That's my job. Don't now you be doing my things here. So we've got a couple of people in studio with us, guys. Hi!
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
I'm good. Starting that side. What's your name?
My name is Unati.
Okay, Unati.
And I'm Kulfelo
Kulufelo.
And I'm Kamukhelo.
Hi, guys. Where are you guys from?
from Ahmad Timor Secondary.
Oh, that's cool. And you guys doing matric. Oh, yeah,
Yes.
you're wearing matric. Never mind. Yeah. So you've got the guest guys in the studio to help Aslam and to have a great show with us. Don't forget to hit us up on Facebook on facebook.com/learnextra and on Twitter @learnextra, and then you can download all the show notes, the videos, and the schedules on learn.mindset.co.za. And if you're asking yourself, Looney, how can I win this awesome Casio calculator? All you need to do is complete the test yourself questions, fill in the entire entry form with all your details, press submit, and then you can stand a chance to win this awesome calculator. Remember, entries do close on Friday at 12 in the afternoon, so you've got all the time in the world until Friday, just before 12, to enter this awesome competition. With that said, Aslam.
Thank you. Welcome, mindsetters. We are busy going to have a look at the eye. Mind the pun on looking at the eye. What are we going to look at? First and foremost, in anything where we're doing this particular paper that we are doing paper, remember this belongs to paper 1, not paper 2. In this particular paper, diagrams are of paramount importance. So the first thing that we have to look at is the structure and the functions of the parts. The first thing you should do when you're doing this section is to draw a diagram, label that diagram, and next to each label, you put the function of each part. So when you're studying, you're looking at one diagram complete. You don't have to read 15 pages to learn the structure and function of the parts of the eye. We must also understand what is meant by binocular vision. Binocular vision, you understand? And describe the changes that occur in these two processes in the eye. Obviously, before all of this, we must also know how we see. How we see objects. Then, how do we change for objects that are closer to us, that's less than 6 meters, and those that are further away? And how do we adjust our pupil size for dim and bright conditions? Finally, we must also be able to discuss some of the visual problems people have. For example, short-sightedness, long-sightedness. Other words for this, by the way, myopia and hypermetropia. And we must look at astigmatism and cataracts. Those are the things that we need to look at in this section. Now, we're going to be going into the questioning sooner or later, not right now. But when we go into the questions today, our 3 esteemed guests will be under pressure because they're going to give us the answer today. So today, I'm not only talking to the camera and Looney and expecting Looney to know everything about the eye. Now I got guys that's supposed to know about the eye. And they have been selected because in their classes, they are the top students in this subject, life science. So this is how they were selected. And they come from the same school that I teach in. So maybe they are the lucky chosen ones.
So you teach them?
I try to teach them.
Oh,
I learn more from them.
oh cool.
Okay. I try very hard. Challenge question, guys. And the 3 of you should note this question down, because you need to work it out as well, because before we give the answer to the viewers, we're going to ask you what your opinion is on that. Nothing very fancy for this section, guys. It's not a very difficult question. Don't be fooled because the word challenge comes there, that, ooh, we can't answer this. The question is simple. Explain why some people over the age of 40, again homework, we're underlining keywords, over the age of 40, tend to wear glasses with convex lenses. So your clue is the age and convex. Those are the two things you need to concentrate on to answer this question. Good? You had a good look? You guys have noted it down? Good. Not a difficult question. There we go. Starting off, you see, most textbooks start off with a diagram of a longitudinal section of the eye. Then, in an exam, if we give you this frontal view, you are stumped. Many years ago, when we had the native system and they asked this question, they gave a diagram like this of the eye as we see it. Learners could not label sclera, pupil, and iris that you can see in this diagram. And this is the basic, the first look that we have at the eye is looking at the eye as we're seeing it here on the board. And very clearly on this diagram, the dark spot in the middle that we see in somebody's eye, that is the pupil. And that tells us that the pupil is not a structure, it is an opening between the eye muscles of the iris. And that's the next part, the iris, this part here. And how do we know the iris of somebody, Looney? We look at the color of their eyes. The color of the eyes, that colored part, is your iris.
Okay.
So if your iris is brown, you have brown eyes. If your iris are blue, you have blue eyes. Up to recently, that was easy to tell, Looney. But today, in the modern era, someone can have a different color of eyes every day. Today, I choose to wear orange because my dress is orange with the color contact lenses that are available in the market. I can't look at somebody when they have that funny guys. Already you know that that's not your color of your eyes.
It's scary.
But some people prefer to do that.
Fashion.
Let's not offend them. The white of the eye, as you can see there, that's the sclera. Sclera. And we label the pupil and the iris. Funny also, in my days of marking, when we were marking, the funniest thing that I've seen so far is when somebody drew the eye. Somebody drew the eye, you know, like that. They drew everything else, and here what they did, oops, hey, you have to be accurate here, you know. I hope I didn't do the wrong things. Let me use the eraser. I'm a little scared of the screen today. I'd rather use the eraser. Okay, so we're saying this guy drew this thing here, or this girl. They just did that. Okay, they drew that little maniki. And the maniki was labeled as the
Pupil.
Now we have to debate whether we must give the guy the marks or not. Would you give the mark?
No.
Kamokelo?
No.
Eh, you can't, eh? Although it's a cartoon character of a pupil that's in school, eh? You can't give them a mark for that. Okay, so remember in exams, you're not going to get marks for your funny things like that. Eh? The pupil is a gap there. So let me take that out because just now some of you, I worry about you guys. You see what I'm drawing here, then you say, hey, he drew it there on TV. You must give me the mark. Okay. But at the same time, I'm hoping viewers and Kamokelo, Kolofelo, and Unati, you saw that it was easy to draw the outline of the eye. If I can draw it, I am no artist, and I could draw that. So it means anybody can draw it. Okay? Okay? So you can draw the diagram. Remember, they can ask you to draw the diagram of an eye in an exam or test or an assignment or whatever, even in a practical. So keep that in mind. Okay. I'm not going to discuss all the other parts of the eye. You should know eyebrows, eyelid, etc., etc., etc. Okay? Also look at your textbooks for the following labels. We're not going to discuss it here. The lacrimal gland, which secretes tears to moisten the eyes. The meibomian gland, which secretes an oily substance to keep the eye moist. Obviously, in this diagram, although the cornea is there, you can't put a label on that diagram for cornea because you can't see it. Again, the pun on seeing and the eye. Sorry about that. Okay, now we go to the diagram that you are more used to, and this is the diagram of a longitudinal section of the eye. You need to know this diagram. Again, we're not going to go through this because you have this in your study notes, you have it in your textbooks, and you've done it in school. That's a diagram of the real labels that we need to know. We must add, obviously, in this diagram. Guys, what can you tell me? What label is missing from there? From where you're standing?
The choroid.
The choroid is missing. Good. That's already missing, and that would be this layer there. I got it on the spot. Wow. Where that cream layer is there, that's the choroid. Good. What else is missing?
Aqueous humor.
The aqueous humor would come in this area here. Aqueous humor. Good, guys.
And the vitreous humor.
The vitreous humor also good, man. Hey, these children are clever, eh?
Hey, I
They
wonder
must
who
become
the
from
teacher
Amatimo
is,
Secondary,
you
eh?
know?
Hey, boy. Good school, that, man. Vitreous humor, eh? Not the funny humor, vitreous humor. Okay, so that's a diagram of the eye. You need to know that diagram, you need to label it, and as I said earlier, you need to be able to draw this diagram also. Remember, if you're drawing a diagram like this, your drawing does not need to be exactly like this. It does not need to be an artist's impression. But obviously, the eye must look like an eye. If you're saying, we're telling you to draw the eye, and your eye looks like an ear, I mean, come on, guys. Eye must look like an eye, right? And it must be a line diagram. You don't color in, you don't shade, huh? You don't shade things in, you don't color, and you don't sketch. When you're drawing in life science, when you put your pen down or your pencil down, you must move with that line. Okay, yeah, we're drawing on the board, remember, so my eye diagram will look a little bit off, eh? But what I'm saying is, you don't sketch. This is not what you do. You don't do this. You put your pen down and you move with the diagram. Whichever way you're drawing, your pen must move on. Huh? So make sure that you're doing that. Okay, so you need to know all these labels here, and you need to know the functions of all these labels. Good? And here we are with I should have covered it, and I could have tested these guys nicely with these functions. Just to go through it, conjunctiva, starting from the outside, we're looking from the front of the eye. Conjunctiva is a membrane outside the cornea. Protection, and because it's curved, refraction. I can ask you a question. What is the question, Unati? What do you think my question would be?
How is it adapted to allow refraction to take place?
Okay, one is he's asking a question at an advanced level. I wouldn't put him on a spot with an advanced question. He told me I mustn't give him curveballs, but he's throwing the curveballs at me. Okay, suited, yes, we could ask how to suit it, but I would ask first, what in heaven's name is refraction? And the answer would be, what?
Bending of light rays.
Bending of light rays, right? You're going to talk up a little bit, right? Okay, then the cornea, it also refracts. Notice that conjunctiva refracts, cornea refracts. And because they are both transparent, they will both allow light to pass through. The iris controls how much of light enters the pupil, through the pupil, or rather the eye through, I'm just going to abbreviate, through the pupil, right? The pupil allows light to pass through. Remember, the pupil is not a structure, it's a gap. Lens helps to focus the light onto the retina. Suspensory ligaments holds the lens in position, and this word accommodation, which we're going to discuss later. Ciliary muscle and body accommodation. Well, I won't be discussing those things, so the guys must know. They're going to be asking those questions. Somebody's going to ask them. They must tell us. Retina has the light receptors. What's the name of the light receptors against, guys?
Cones and
Rods and
rods.
cones.
Rods and cones. Good. Rods and cones. And what do receptors do?
They
Receive
receive the
light.
light signal.
Yeah, and
They convert it
to an
impulse.
impulse. Excellent. So the receptors, any receptor, right? Unati has chosen to talk about the light receptors, but let's look at receptors in general. Their job is to receive stimulus and convert it to an impulse. Now let's substitute. In this particular one, they receive light stimulus and convert it to a visual impulse. In the ear, it will be sound waves and hearing, etc., etc., etc. Sclera, obviously because it's the outer covering, it will be protection, and the muscles are attached to it. The optic nerve carries impulses from the eye to the brain. Further than that, we are looking at how we see things. This is how we see the object. The light reflects on that, and the image must fall on the retina. It's on the retina, not before the retina, not after the retina, on the retina. Why? Why must it fall on the retina, guys? Tell me.
So
Because what's in the retina?
Rods and
rods
cones.
and
The rods and cones, because the receptors are in the retina. Good. Binocular vision, and I'm not going to explain that. That tells you we're looking at one object with two eyes, and we see one image. We don't see two flowers because both eyes are looking at this flower. When we see the flower, we see it as one. This is binocular vision, seeing one image with two eyes. And stereoscopic vision is also part of this, where we can see depth as well. In other words, we know what is high and what is low. Yeah, you see this guy, they're asking him to use binoculars. He says it's not easy for him. Eh? Uluni? Ooh, one eye, fella. Eh? Fella, one eye. They want him to use binocular. Accommodation. Look at the shapes here, guys. The key in accommodation for far distant vision, we need a flatter lens. And for near vision, we need a rounder or more convex lens. Here's another diagram showing the same thing. Good. And the pupillary mechanism is showing us what happens in dim and bright conditions. There we see in bright conditions, the pupil is smaller. And here, and I don't like the word smaller, so what word must we use again? Constrict. Good. Constricted. And here? Dilated. Okay, guys, with that bit of summary, we go back to Luni.
All right. Mindset says we are going to take a very quick break, but don't go anywhere. We'll see you straight after this. Welcome back, guys, from that very short break. Remember, if we don't get through all your questions by the end of the show, you can send them through our Learn Extra help desk. And the Life Sciences help desk is proudly brought to you by Axel. So please, guys, make use of it. The address is learn.mindset.co.za/help desk.
Are you ready for me?
Yes.
Good. Let's move, guys. We were summarizing the distant vision and near vision. And we're going to look at that just now again in a question, so I'm going to leave that for later. And then we look at the pupil. We got a question on that. So when we're doing the question, I'm going to show you how to remember that and also answer it. And our friends will also tell us how to do that. Good. The last part of this section is eye disorders. The first one is dealing with myopia. And as you can see here, myopia, what is happening? The image is falling before the retina. And therefore, myopia is also called short-sighted. Can you see? Short-sighted. It's falling before the retina. That means the focal length is too short. The focal length can be too short because the eyeball is too long, or the lens is held in a more convex position. We'll talk about that also a little bit later. Hyperopia or hypermetropia is also known as long-sightedness. And you can see why, because the image, the focal length is too long, the image is falling behind the retina. No good. It must be
behind.
Where must it be?
On the retina.
On the retina. Not in front of, not behind, but on the retina. Because the rods and cones are on the retina, and therefore they need to see that. Astigmatism is slightly different in that the cornea is curved differently at different spots. That means some parts of the cornea are curved for long-sightedness and some for short-sightedness. So now we need to correct that. How do we correct all these things? Just to see, by the way, astigmatism, can you see what's happening here? There's multiple focal points. That means the curvature of the cornea is not great. And therefore, this image is falling there, that one is falling there, the other one is falling behind. So to sort that out, all these three things, we need to have different stories. Obviously, if the focal length is short, we need to increase the focal length. And how do we do that? What type of lenses?
Concave lens.
Biconcave lens.
Biconcave.
Okay? Why? Because the biconcave lens is going to increase the focal length and the image will fall on the retina where we need to see. Okay? And for hyperopia?
Convex.
Biconvex. Good. And for astigmatism, they have to unevenly grind the lenses according to the problems that the person is facing on the cornea. So that different points on that lens will have different focal lengths, and that's how the problem is solved. By the way, this one is put there by you, by us, to show you that if this is how you're seeing an image, now obviously you're not seeing the right picture. Look at the difference between that and that. If your eyes are perfect, then you can see the difference between those two there. Good. And carrying on there, cataract, the last one, cataract. Here's a clear, normal clear lens. A cataract is when the lens becomes cloudy for some reason. And the reasons being aging, metabolic disorders, trauma, or inheritance or heredity. And that's what can happen to the person there. Look at the lens there. And in this particular case, what you're seeing here is what, if you have normal vision, this is what you would see, this picture, same picture. If you have a cataract, can you see that there's more gray in the color there that you are seeing there? How do we fix that?
Surgery.
Surgery. We remove the cataract and the whole lens, in fact, and we replace it with another lens, and your vision is then restored to normal. Good. That was a summary, guys. Now we're going to, oh, by the way, this one here. That's a lovely one, don't you think? The problem with living in water is I never can tell when my contact lenses are in. Hey? Hey? And this one says, I could not work today because I had an eye problem. When they asked me what type of eye problem, I told them I simply could not see myself working. Hey? Good? Yeah. Now, okay, that was just to calm them down, Luni.
Yeah.
Now it's time to question it. All right. Can you list the 4 stimuli that the body can respond to? Stimulus from outside.
Light.
Light.
Pain.
Pain. Come on.
Sound.
Sound. Good. That's already 3. We'll give them a break, don't you think?
Yes.
Sensation.
Right. There we go. Light, sound, touch, temperature, pressure, pain, and chemicals. Chemicals mainly through taste and smell. Okay? So you light, sound, touch, temperature, pressure, hot, cold, etc. All those are stimuli that the body can interpret. Explain what binocular vision means. Anybody?
So I think it's when
Come
the
on, fellow.
ability of the eyes to pick up different pictures and make it one.
Yes, okay,
Different.
more or less, we'll give you that one. That is vision in which both eyes are used synchronously. Big word, dunya, I give you the hard task. Synchronously. Right, in sync. In sync, we can say, to produce one image. You get the picture? Distinguish between the following disorders of the eye with regards to the nature, causes, and possible treatment. Okay, we're not going to give you hard time with that one. Those are easy. We're just going to go through that very quickly. A cataract is clouding of the lens. I'm going to highlight those. Highlight clouding of the lens. Cause is not yet clearly understood, but generally age related, and try and get used to this word, congenital. Now, guys, you know, I know genitals come in that word, congenital. We're not talking of the genital organs here. Congenital means, and I know at your age that's all you think about sometimes. Congenital means that it is hereditary. That means you can inherit it from your parents. Some may be secondary cataracts, etc., traumatic cataracts, etc., whatever. How can we fix it? Surgery. You only need to know what is a cataract, what is the cause, and how can we treat it. That's all you need to know. Remember it. Hypermetropia, we know, we spoke about it earlier. This is long-sightedness, and we gave you the reason earlier. The eyeball is too rounded or the lens is too flat. Mainly genetic. If your parents, one of your parents had it, you're probably going to get it. And it can, long-sightedness can occur at any age, but it tends to become more noticeable above the age of 40. Let's move from that one quickly. Okay? The next question. Now, this is where we're going to explain some of the work that I spoke about earlier. You've got to be concentrating now. And they're going to answer for us, but we're going to concentrate when I'm going to explain as well. The following diagrams 1 and 2 show a section through a portion of the human eye and illustrate how the lens changes its shape when eye focuses on an object. Now, many learners got thrown off by these diagrams here on the side. Because they're seeing that and they're thinking of the pupil and so on and so on, they're getting excited. But notice, they're telling you clearly that this part here in the middle is not the pupil, but it's that part there. Same here, E is E. And all these labels are the same. Are we all clear with that? You guys clear with that one? Okay? Now the first question says, provide labels for A to E. That we can do on the diagram. So A is this part here on the side. What is that?
Ciliary muscles.
Ciliary muscles. Good. Ciliary muscle and body. We can't see clearly, so we say that. B.
It's the suspensory
Good. The
ligaments.
suspensory ligaments. Great. What? A to E. Remember also, mindset is A to E and A and E are two different things. When it was A and E, you would have got 2 marks. A to E, you have to get 5 marks because you have to give all the labels. So be careful about a thing like that. Okay, so that was B, C,
Iris.
iris, good. D,
It's the conjunctiva.
conjunctiva, or in this case,
Cornea.
you're not showing it, we'd rather
Cornea.
label it as
Cornea.
cornea. Good. And lastly, E,
The lens.
that's easy, right? The lens. So we, I said lens there. Lens. Amida Ben, I'm thinking of your town, that's why I wrote lens there. Lenasia. Lens. Okay, good. So we've done that already. We've labeled, were you guys right?
Yes.
Let's mark your work, right? This was right, that one was right, that one, and that one. Right? So you got 5 marks. Good. So you're doing well so far, Looney?
Yes.
List the functions of B, C, and D. What is B?
Hold the lens.
Suspensory ligaments. What does it do?
It also.
Talk loud, I must hear you now.
Yes, sir.
Right.
It also
Adjustment.
for accommodation.
Accommodation and its primary function, you said first?
Hold the lens.
Holds the lens in position. It keeps the lens in its position. And at the same time, it also plays a role in accommodation. Good. C, the iris.
It's for light, allows light to come in. And
Good. It controls the amount of light that comes into the eye. And D, the cornea, Unati,
It's for refraction.
it's for refraction and also allowing light to pass through because it's transparent, remember? Here we go. Good. Name the process that accounts for the change from diagram 1 to 2. This is diagram 1. That's how the lens was looking, and it moved to that. What is this process called?
Accommodation.
Accommodation. Excellent, excellent. Guys, you are making my life easy. I, accommodation. Using letters and names of the parts labeled A to E, describe 3 changes that occur. Now, we're going to explain this one here. What is happening in accommodation? And obviously, in this particular case, we're dealing with near vision. And notice the question, the instruction. You must use the letters. Wait, how did that happen? You must use the letters and the names of the parts. Not just the names, but the letters and the names. And let's see what we did there. First of all, we're saying the ciliary muscles,
Contract.
part A, contracts. And I would like to say here, contracts towards the lens. This will make sense to you. Hey, I keep saying lens. What's happening with me? Let me just correct it there. Lens. Contracts towards the lens. Okay? What happens because of that? There's no pressure on the suspensory ligaments, so they become slack. Suspensory ligaments, part B, becomes slack. That then has less tension on the lens, and the lens, part E, becomes more convex. Remember here, because they just told you the parts and that, we don't have to say the in-between parts there, right? But in a longer question, you need to say that. That's why I'm adding that there. Okay? Are we all clear with this part here? You guys okay with it? Or, if we went the other way, now look at what's happening. We're talking about the same 3 parts. But, look at these words. That word, and that word. What can you tell me, guys?
It's distant.
Yes, but compared to the ones that we
It's
mentioned
the
before,
opposite.
it is the opposite. So do you have to learn both?
No.
No, not at all, right? Good, guys. You are with me there. Which diagram, 1 or 2, represents the state of the eye when a person is reading a book? I take the diagram up for you guys. Which one is the one that they're reading a book? Diagram 1 or diagram 2?
Two.
Obviously diagram 2. And why do you say that, by the way?
Near vision.
Why? Why? What in the diagram is telling you
The
that?
lens is more convex.
The lens is more convex. Excellent, guys. You're doing absolutely well. Okay, diagram 2 here, they did not ask you for a reason, but they could have asked you for a reason in the exam. And the reason is because in this diagram 2, the lens is more convex. And when the lens is more convex, it's for near vision. I'm going to try before the end of the show to teach you the same section on accommodation. And they've heard it before in the classroom, but I'm going to humor them and I'm going to try and help you if I have time to teach you that section using logic. That means going backwards. We'll explain later. Okay, study the diagram below and answer the questions that follow. Write down the letters of the parts A to G where the clearest image is formed. In this diagram, where is the clearest image formed?
G.
G, good. That's correct. Why G, by the way? Just tell others they want to know why.
They have hots and cones.
But what we call this area, by the way?
The yellow
The
spot.
yellow
The
spot.
yellow spot. And in this area, they have more cones. They have the most cones are found in this area. And therefore, it's the part of acute vision, not acute vision. Acute meaning the sharpest image is formed there. Good. Next one. That is responsible for maintaining the shape of the eyeball. That will be
The sclera.
the shape of the eyeball.
Vitreous humor.
The vitreous humor, and that is
It is
F.
F.
F, okay? Good. That is responsible for the nutrition of the eye. Which part of the eye? Which of the 3 layers, by the way? In name.
The choroid.
Choroid. And that would be part number
B.
B in this diagram. Good. Excellent. State the function of part F. What is part F? We said already the vitreous humor, and we've already asked that question. So it will maintain the shape of the eyeball, and it plays a role in the refraction. Explain how part E functions in dim light. Remember, we spoke about accommodation. Now we're talking about pupil mechanism. Guys, please understand that when we're talking about light and dim, we only talk about the pupil and the iris. When we talk about near and far, we only talk about the lens and associated structures. Remember that all the time. Explain how part E functions in dim light, and part E is the iris. The iris has 2 muscles. Can anybody name them for me?
Radial muscles.
Radial and
Circular
muscles, right? And that's where we're going to. But before we go to the answer itself, if it's dim light, must the pupil be wider or narrower?
Narrow.
No, wider.
wide.
Wider.
Because it must be wider.
It must be
Wider.
To allow more light.
to allow more light to come. Good, excellent. You notice how quickly you can make a mistake with this. So always think about it, even when you're putting your answers down. And how does that happen? The radial muscles contract, the circular muscles relax, and the pupil dilates. Notice we're using the correct language. Pupil dilates, so more light enters the eye for a clear image to form in the eye. So to remember this one here, this is dim light. I use the mnemonic debit, credit. Yeah? In dim light, the radial muscles contract, squared, and the circular muscles relax. That part is the hard part. The second part is obvious. Because it's dim, we want as much light as possible to come in. The only way we can do that if the pupil dilates to allow more light, and the last part is always the case, whether it's near dim or bright. Now obvious also at the same time that if we are looking at bright light, what's going to happen? This is going to change to the opposite. Instead of contract, it's going to be relax. And instead of relax will be contract. And instead of dilate will be constrict. And less light entering the eye. Can you notice we're only changing one word there and we're learning both. The idea is don't learn both, because in an exam, when the question is asked you under pressure, you may confuse dim and bright. Remember that. With that, We'll take a short ad break, and when we come back, we're going to take questions from the learners, and we're going to answer the challenge question. So you guys better have the challenge question answered, because you're going to tell the viewers the answer of the challenge question, and not Looney and not Aslam.
Yes, okay. Mindsetters, let's take a very quick break. We'll see you straight after this. Hi guys, welcome back. I hope you guys are still enjoying the show. Just a reminder how to win this awesome calculator. You complete all the test yourself questions, you fill in all your details, you submit your entry form, but remember you have all the time in the world because entries close on Friday at 12 in the afternoon. And remember, if you don't get through all your questions by the end of the show, you can send them to the Learn Extra Help Desk, proudly brought to you by Excel. And the address is learn.mindset.co.za/help desk.
Oh, say, very good. Thank you, Looney. Guys, don't forget to post your questions. We're going to take your questions shortly. I'm not reading the whole story because you have it. You have this. All right? So we're looking at that, and we're looking at the graph, and we need to answer questions. So I'm going to cut our guys out for a while because they're still thinking about the challenge question which they're going to answer, and they're going to be answering your questions. I'm going to take a break today. I don't have to think. I've got 3 able assistants that are going to answer your questions. So this is a straightforward. You have to look at a diagram to answer this question? No, not at all. Which structure in the eye controls the size of the pupil? And the answer is the iris, obviously. Between which 2 consecutive time intervals did the following changes in the diameter of the pupil occur? When was the smallest increase? Now watch, you've got to read this thing properly. This is the time intervals on the x-axis, and the diameter of the pupil on the y-axis. Okay, so we need to look for the smallest change. Which way? Let's see. Smallest increase. Okay, from here to there was how many? That's 2. That's 4. So that's 2. From there to there, 1, isn't it? There's no increase. Am I right? That is obviously more than these 2, so we can't go that way. Going down that way is decrease, and then there's a big increase there. And they wanted to know the smallest increase. So the smallest increase is between which 2 intervals? 2 and 3. Remember, in this answer, you can't say interval 2, because they're asking you between. The question is saying between which 2 consecutive. You have to say between 2 and 3. Remember that in that answer, right? Good. And the biggest decrease, that one you can see clearly in this diagram. It is between
6 and 7.
6 and 7. There we go, reading there. Remember, these questions, you don't have to study anything. It's about reading the graph. You can see the drop. It's a huge drop from 6 to 7. Hey. Good. Why did the diameter of the pupil remain the same during the 3rd and 4th time interval? In fact, the question should say, why do you think? I wouldn't ask that, but because then I tell my kids that I'll say I don't think about these things. It's not a good answer. You get no marks for that. So why would you think that there was no change there? Any ideas, guys?
The light
The light
intensity
didn't
change.
Exactly, we're dealing with light intensity here, isn't it? So either the light intensity didn't change, or we didn't change the distance of the light from the person. Good. Let's see what the experts had to say about that one. Same distance, because they're talking about distance in this case, and obviously the light intensity. But remember, look at what they're talking about here. In this case here, they're talking about the same bulb, but what did they vary? Distance, right? I didn't give them a chance to read that part. They would have understood that now. But do you understand why we're not talking about intensity? We're talking about distance in this case. Okay? At which time interval was the electrical bulb the greatest distance away from the person? Explain your answer. So where do you think the electric bulb was the furthest away from the eye?
8. At 8.
At 8. He's saying 8, and the diameter is 1. You think that's correct or not, Chief?
I think it's 5.
You think it's 5? And why are you saying it's 5?
Because as it's further away, there's less light available.
Good,
Oh,
excellent,
okay.
excellent. You see why your answer was incorrect. Right? Remember, guys, we need the incorrect answers to help us to learn. And that's why in your classes, and that's why I'm happy Kamokhelo is answering even though his answer was incorrect. In your classes, you must answer. When you sit there, how are you feeling today? The teacher makes a joke. A guy claps you. You can't sit there. The class is not going to carry on. When you give a wrong answer, the teacher can use your wrong answer to teach the rest of the class why your answer is incorrect. Now here, the thing was, and here, let's open it up. At 5, obviously was the one, or between 5 and 6, the size of the pupil was the largest. The further away the bulb was, the less light there was. Therefore, the pupil will dilate more there. That's why that's the correct answer. Okay. Explain the pupillary mechanism for the period between 8 and 9. I'm not going to discuss this because we've already done pupillary mechanism, but there's a story there, adjusted for bright light. At night, we're exposed to dim light. So from bright to dim. Again, the radial muscles contract, and what's missing in between? The circular muscles relax, and the pupil dilates so that more light enters, so we get a clear image. Try to keep those small details in. Don't leave them out, otherwise you're losing marks. Provide a possible hypothesis for this investigation. We've spoken about hypothesis, I'm just writing it there. The closer or the further any bright source to the eye, the smaller the greater. Notice, it means either or it's correct, because it's your hypothesis. Explain how you would improve the reliability of the investigation. Test both eyes. Here they were testing only one eye. So by testing 2 eyes, you are increasing the sample size. Or repeat. Remember, whenever you're dealing with reliability, we talk of the sample size and repeating the investigation. List 2 factors apart from the environmental factors which you have to keep constant to ensure the results are valid. Remember here they said apart from environmental factors. So what must you keep? The same person must measure, because Luni can measure incorrectly, Astam can measure incorrectly, Unati can measure correctly. So if we're going to let 1, 2, and 3 measure, there's no consistency in the answer. Okay? The electric bulb must be kept at the same height for all intervals. You can't say same distance because this experiment was testing different distances. But if we have one lower, one higher, it can affect brightness. Okay? We can also say, but they said it already, they're using the same bulb. If they did not say that, then you must use the same bulb, because you can use a white bulb, or 60 watt, 100 watt, etc. It's going to affect your answer. Challenge question. Are we ready? You had your discussion. Who's going to give us the answer?
She's thinking it's
Camogelo.
Oh,
Colofelo.
Colofelo. The Camogelo. Colofelo. Too much, eh?
Yeah, it's complicated.
We mustn't kill to others with K's all the time.
It's long-sightedness
Why?
because the eyeball is flattened
Eyeball is flattened.
and the lens is less convex at that age of 40,
Okay.
and the image lies behind the retina, focuses
Excellent.
on
The one part though we're going to correct. The first thing is that it's long-sightedness. People become long-sighted at age 40 and beyond, most people. Why? Not about the eyeball, but it's about the lens only. The lens loses elasticity. That means, remember I told you in class as well, guys, accommodation, really speaking, is for near vision. The eye is set for far vision. But for our matric work, we learn it for near and far. What happens is that the lens remains in a fixed flat position, and therefore we can't accommodate to see closer. Therefore we need those. Excellent answer. I'm hoping the mindsetters have taken that answer, and that is the answer there for that particular case. I've given it in a little bit more detail there. The lens loses elasticity, or the ability to become more convex, cannot change its shape, and therefore the convex lens of the glasses allows the light rays to converge, or it shortens the focal length so that it forms a clear image on the retina. Good.
Okay.
Hey, rapid fire, they better be ready.
Okay, cool.
You got 7 minutes of rapid fire coming your way.
Okay, Lynette is asking, if left untreated, what can happen to a person with a damaged cornea?
Hectic one that for you. How can you give them such a heavy question?
No, you said they're clever, so we must test them.
Alright, the question is asking the person's cornea is damaged and they're untreated. It's a very wide open question, guys. So I'm going to answer it the best that I can, even it's heavy for me. The cornea is damaged, obviously it depends what type of damage you're talking about. Am I right, Unati, Dr. Unati? Okay, it's going to be dependent on what type of damage we're talking about. Is it torn? Is it clouded? What is the problem? And based on that, in any damage to the eye, any part of the eye, you need to treat immediately. You cannot leave any part of the eye untreated. I'm going to leave it at that because it's beyond the scope. If you need, you can send to help desk and we can give you a further answer.
Okay. Klonisha is asking, what is the role of the lens in accommodation?
What's her name?
Klonisha.
Klonisha wants to know, what does the lens do in accommodation? That's
Well,
up your alley.
well, the lens becomes more convex either to allow more light rays to bend in more, or becomes less convex to allow less light to bend in.
Right, so in other words, in what's that word you're using about bending? What's the word we use?
Refraction.
Right, so the lens is playing a role in a refraction. And how does it do in accommodation? It's either more flat or more convex. If it's more flat, it's got refractive power is going to be decreased. And if it's more round, its refractive power will be increased. Okay, good.
All right. Siabulela is asking, why does the vitreous humor have a higher refractive index than the aqueous humor?
Ah, nah, don't. Yeah, what could you? Probably the vitreous humor, because it's more jelly-like, therefore the curve, the refractive power is higher than the liquid aqueous humor. Again, not for the syllabus, so don't stress about it.
All right. Klonisha again. What happens to the human being if he or she has astigmatism and cataracts?
Okay, there's two different conditions, astigmatism and cataract. Remember, cataract simply means that the lens is clouded. So that means that that lens is not going to see lacquer. Huh? So what must we do in that case?
Surgery.
We have to take the cataract out. Okay, there are two separate treatments here. The other part, the astigmatism, is affecting which part of the eye?
The land, the
Cornea.
The cornea.
cornea.
The cornea is
Is
unequally curved. And because it's unequally curved, it's shooting messages in different lengths. So we have to treat that one separately. And how do we treat the astigmatism?
we use specific lenses.
Use specific lenses which are also unevenly ground to match the uneven grounding of the cornea. Good, excellent, guys.
Mandla is asking, can you explain the blind spot?
Oh, we didn't talk about the blind spot. I wish I can get to the diagram. I'm sounding like loony. I may be getting loony, but I was always loony. Okay, the blind spot, ladies and gentlemen, or boys and girls, is in this area here, where the optic nerve leaves. In that spot of the retina is known as the blind spot. Tell them why it's called the blind spot.
There's
There's
no
no
photoreceptors.
No,
It has no photoreceptors, one answer, it's 2 marks, or
no rods,
no rods and cones. Now notice this particular, I'm glad we get 2 different answers. If you say photoreceptors, you're going to get 2 marks. If you say rods only, you're only going to get 1 mark. Remember that. When you're saying photoreceptors is complete, when you're saying rods, you must say rods and cones because they're both there. In this area, there are no rods and cones. Therefore, any image falling in this area will not be converted to an impulse. Okay? And while we're there, why do we call this the yellow spot? Again, you told us earlier, it has the most cones, and therefore, when an image falls there, the idea is as far as possible to let the image fall on the fovea so that you can see clearly. Now remember, the blind spot in South Africa or in any other country, when you're driving on the highway, that is when the blind spot is most dangerous, because when you're looking in your side mirror, a car is there, but you can't see it because that image is falling on your blind spot. So what do? Most manufacturers now have the mirrors, what they call it?
That line.
That line, yeah. That line means there's a blind spot mirror. In the olden days, when we were younger, when the beard was not there or it was black, then we had a thicker mirror that fitted onto the existing mirror, which shifted the image from the blind spot to the
Retina.
which
Yellow
spot?
spot.
The
The
yellow
yellow
spot
spot.
or fovea. Fovea is also known as yellow spot. Acute vision. Acute, sharpest vision. Huh? Good. Excellent. Any other question?
Lynette, how is rejection prevented?
How is?
Rejection.
You must be handsome. She won't regret
No.
rejection. No? True. Rejection of what?
Oh,
You can't
okay,
answer that question.
okay.
Yeah, I'm assuming, let me assume that you're talking about if you're doing an eye transplant or something to that, or any transplant. How is it? How is it?
Rejected.
How is it
How is it prevented?
How is it prevented? The best is to find somebody that has the closest genetics as yourself, the genes as you, and then it would not be, the organ would not be rejected.
Okay. I don't know this name. I'll just ask the question.
Yeah.
What happens when the optic nerve gets affected?
The optic nerve can be affected in many ways. One of such is called inflammation or optic neuritis. That means the optic nerve is swollen. When that optic nerve is swollen, the transmission of the impulse is impaired. Again, not for exam purposes, but you can link it a little bit to multiple sclerosis, because one of the signs and symptoms of multiple sclerosis is optic neuritis. The optic nerve gets swollen. So obviously that's one damage. What happens if it gets snapped completely?
No impulse.
No impulse will go to the brain, and therefore you cannot interpret it. One more question we have time for.
Lynette, why does the age of the cornea have to match that of the recipient?
Outside the scope of the syllabus and outside of the knowledge of Khan.
Okay.
So we'll have to send it to the help desk and we will help you, Lynette.
Okay.
Any other questions there?
Never.
Guys, you want to shout out to somebody?
Yeah, I'd like to send a shout out to my friends, Top
Let's do it quickly, eh?
Top Bees and my family. I love them.
Right. Munachi.
I'd like to send a shout out to all my friends and families and my classmates. Hey people.
Yeah, I'd like to send a shout out to 12D.
12D, aye, no. 12D, no. 12D, although he's giving you the shout out, I'm going to give you one left and one right to one.
Okay. Thank you, Aslam, and thank you guys for tuning in. Mindsetters, it's done. It's over. We are done. Thank you so much for tuning in. We love you. Goodbye.